Hello my friends and welcome back to Gardentober. Today's prompt is Lisianthus and I am so irritated. Oh you guys, I did this full drawing tutorial but the audio wasn't working. Like I didn't pick up anything. I'm not sure what happened. I had just tested the audio now so we know that this is working. But I did this drawing on film and if you'd like to see this in the future, obviously without any audio, let me know and maybe I can just put it to some nice music. As frustrated as I am, I have another flower planned for this section here. So I thought we could draw that together and just kind of... So I have this illustration that I've already kind of created where we've got this Lisianthus that has, I love how they have kind of that rose shape, but they have a little bit more of a flutter at their petals. But I have kind of this curved stem. I'm thinking about adding some buds over here, but I need to add one here. Now my original plan was, in order to create a little more interest, to have it turning away. But for the sake of this tutorial, I think it would be best if we were able to peek into it a little bit, kind of like this one. So I'm going to find one where I can do that. The things that we talk about both in the flower drawing course, the mini one, the free mini one, and the botanical drawing course where we were like really dive in, we're just following those same rules. So let's start in. I'll have my reference image on the screen here for you. And we're going to start drawing this Lisianthus to connect in with this composition that we've already created. So to start, I'm going to figure out where my stem is because I want it to blend seamlessly with what we already have. You can see I have a little bit of an outline here. And it has to make sense or else it's just going to be confusing overall. So it looks like I'm going to kind of end up right here in the end. This will be kind of the base. Let's kind of get started. So I'm going to start with this firstmost petal, and occasionally, especially if I'm switching around, I try to use an arrow to post like what I am in our reference image. And I'm just going to kind of map some things out because I want to make sure that it fits. So I don't know if I finished that train of thought, but occasionally I'll have an arrow on the reference image just to show what part of the flower I'm working on right now. And hopefully that will help with any confusion, especially areas where it's like, think it might end up getting a little confusing. All right, we've got these stamen. So hopefully that's helpful. And I'm just going around, I'm kind of building out my puzzle. So I'm figuring out where everything's gonna go. I often call this stage of the process. See how I saw that I needed to move this section out a little farther. And this is very light, but it is very important for me, especially as somebody who is kind of jumping back into something that I've already created and changing the plan a little bit. So I'll have kind of a rough sketch of this on the screen for you to see, but I didn't put this section far enough over. I just didn't leave enough space for it. So I was able to kind of course correct without having to erase some really harsh lines. So now I'm pretty happy with where everything is. I am going to lighten it just a touch more with my kneaded eraser, just so I don't have to deal with that mess later. And we're going to get started with the drawing. But first, I'm going to grab some bath tissue that I thought was hiding over there, but it's not. Oh, I'm going to grab some bath tissue and just lay that over the section that I've already drawn in order to protect it from any oils on my hands or any rubbing around. Okay, let's dive in. All right, let's dive in. So this time, I'm actually going to work from the center and then move out. I'm pretty confident in my placement, so I think we'll be okay doing that. So I'm going to start with these little stamen here. We're going to do a contour line drawing. So just slowly, really focusing on my reference image, one section at a time. And I want to capture these ruffles, but I don't want it to look to formula, because it's not in, not only is it not in my reference image, but that can become boring where your viewer will just feel like they already know what's going on and lose interest. By having something that, you see, this is like a smaller section, we got a medium-sized section, we have a much bigger section with these ruffles, it makes it more interesting. It draws the viewer in because they don't think that they've already, you know, their mind isn't already going, oh, well, I've got that figured out. We tend to, our brains will fill in information, especially if it looks like it's like a pattern or if we're filling it in. So oftentimes with texture in drawings, let me see if I can find a good example. Oftentimes with texture, you don't even have to finish filling it in because your brain will fill it in. Your brain knows that even though I only did kind of a flutter ruffle there, this is fuzzy. You know, like this section is fuzzy. And there, you know, there's some texture there. Another example from the Rudbeckia that we drew the other day is we have, you know, this texture, but we stop in here because your brain fills that in automatically. We just need to give enough information to convey what's going on, and our brains will fill in the rest. But because of that, if there is something that's like a pattern, you really want to make sure that you are not being too consistent with it, or else, again, our viewers just get kind of bored. Kind of like if you think about, like, if you were to draw a scene from like a circus, how if there was like the triangle banner, you know, that goes around like this, you know, on the string, you don't have to look at the whole thing to know, you know, how it's moving about the page and that there's triangles throughout the whole thing. They could have even like thrown in one random square and you wouldn't notice. Your mind would automatically go, that's a triangle. You know, it's just like the rest. So you have to really kind of watch out for that kind of thing where you're trying to make sure that it's still interesting for your viewers. Hopefully that made sense. Sorry about the random tangent. Curved in too early. This is kind of tricky how all the petals are overlapping and intertwining with each other, but I love the overall effect. But it does slow down an already slow process. Okay, right in here, this petal. So this is a good example. It's got some texture on the end, and I could include every single one, or I can do a couple and take a break, but also try to capture some of the more interesting sections. All right, my apologies, it was out of focus a bit, but I'm doing the same thing. So we're just going around and following our reference image. One line, one little ruffle, one little cutout at a time. So I'm trying to capture these tiny little details, and I'm going very slowly. One of the main comments that I get consistently from students who are taking my drawing classes is, oh, I didn't realize you moved so slowly. And if you want to capture these beautiful details, you can't move as quickly. Don't forget that even the artists who do move faster than me, who are smarter or on their feet or just, you know, better artists who are able to move faster, their videos are also probably sped up as well. Not that they're not faster than me, but that they have kind of that additional help. A lot of my videos, especially on social media and definitely in the past, have been sped up. So slow down, and I think you'll find that your artwork immediately improves. So this line originally kind of ran into this line, but I think that made that more confusing about what it is. I could be missing my guess, but I think that's the next petal that comes around and eventually pokes out at the top. So I think it makes more sense to have it cut in a little early so that you're not trying to connect it to this piece and trying to figure out where it fits. So I might actually nix this line altogether, but we'll see how the balance works out when we're done. I might kind of bring, so this petal that's here, I'm going to bring it over here to help with the balance. But let's see how we progress, and we can make that change later if we decide that it's important. All right, I'm taking a moment to kind of step back and look at it. We definitely need something up here, but I think I might bring it, like I was saying, bring it up over here. We might just get rid of that altogether. In fact, I think we're going to. We can always add it back in, but let's take it out and see what we think. I do like that better already. And then if we just bring this one up, it can still come up here and go into that point that we have. And then come down gracefully, theoretically. All right, that's looking pretty good overall. I'm gonna also add in something I can't see very well, but I know is there, is this chunk at the bottom, which I can't remember what it's called. And then we're gonna add in some of this greenery that used to kind of hug the bud, but now it's just kind of hanging out over here. All right, with the other drawings I did, I shaded in the stamen just lightly to give it some definition, so I'm going to do that now. And I'm also going to draw in our stem. So the biggest thing with the stem is we want to be nice and graceful, not have a lot of like kinks in it. This one will go over this section, but it's under this one. Okay, so we've got our nice long graceful stem, which definitely took some time. I think I'm going to want to add some leaves in here in a little bit, at least one, but I'm going to take the time now to clean up this area so I can really read and kind of reassess if I need to adjust any other petals. Because even though I am the artist and I am drawing from life, so even though I am drawing from life, I am the artist, so I get to kind of decide if I want things adjusted or how I want this flower portrayed. I do think we've captured some of the kind of quintessential elements of the Lisianthus, where we've got like into this curve and the petals are kind of twisting around each other. But I think some areas became a little fuzzy, so let's kind of add some of those back in. Now there are only two in here. I'm going to add a third one just to add a little bit more interest. I think it's a little more consistent with the actual plant. And then moving back, and then backing up a bit, I'm going to add in, I think, a leaf right in here. So if we look elsewhere on the flower, we can see kind of where the junction is. They don't have much of one, it just kind of comes out. So I'm going to use this leaf as a guide. Make it a little bit smaller, but they do come in sets, so maybe we'll add a second one, maybe not. I think I'm just going to add this one. We'll see. I think that will fill in the space, whereas a second one might detract from what's going on, what I already have going on over here. We'll see. Sorry if you can hear my computer. think I'm going to simplify this. I don't want the leaf to be the star of the show here. I want the flowers to be. So while still capturing the personality of these leaves, I'm going to take a little bit of the character out. So we don't have kind of this bubble in here. That way all the detail is focused on the Lisianthus itself, the bloom. And we can all move on with our lives. All right, now I'm going to zoom over to another section. We're going to finish this bud up here. So I've got one here and I kind of have one tucked over here, which I'm still debating. I like kind of the triangle effect of these three, but I don't know, the other way works. So let's pick a bud. All right, so we've picked one. I'm going to start in this upper corner. I don't really need to map it out because I already have kind of the ghost outline, if you will, sketched out there. We've got some beautiful little ruffles on this as well. And we're interrupted by this little bit. It's very stiff. I don't usually like stiff greenery, but I think we'll let it be for now. I don't love this one here. I'm going to move it over here. And I'm going to extend it, otherwise it would stop kind of about there. So I'm going to extend it, make it a little taller, a little more graceful. And add another petal in here. My stem might be a little thin for what we've got going on there. But overall, I'm pretty happy with where this is going. I can still clean it up a little bit with my small, oops, wrong bag, and get in here and really kind of tidy things up, and then it will be ready for painting or scanning, whichever we decide to do. I think if I were to kind of go back in here, I might bring these in just a touch, these little areas. And maybe I still will, just to kind of allow it. This has just a much more open, a much more flowery and ruffly effect, where this just feels a little bit thick. And some of that is, it just is as a flower. But we can kind of cheat in that and make it a little bit more the way we want it to be. All right, and now there it is. Overall, I'm very happy with it. As frustrating as it was to not be able to show you the original and have to kind of make it again, I'm glad we had an opportunity to kind of look at different things, see how we do texture and pattern in a way that kind of still draws our viewer in and grabs their attention. I hope that overall you learned something, that you enjoyed yourself through this drawing experience, and that you are enjoying Gardentober so far. I am very excited to dive into our next prompt, And I hope that you have a wonderful, wonderful day. Until next time, happy drawing.